This is a combined slur and SHRM meeting, so we're just going to get to it right away before we actually go over any kind of our organizational stuff. We're really happy and proud to have Nick Shaw, Director of PricewaterhouseCoopers and partner of PricewaterhouseCoopers, and fellow LER alum from Penn State, speaking with us here today. So he's going to give a presentation, and I'll just turn it over to him right now.
Okay.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. All right. This will be really informal. Feel free to ask me questions, stop me at any point. I wouldn't be a good consultant if I didn't have a 25-page PowerPoint in actually. We won't go through all that. A little background on me. I'm a 1995 grad from Global Labor Studies as well as the Industrial Organizational Psychology department. I started my career at Westinghouse Electric Corporation in their HR program. I did executive compensation work, and I was also on the mergers and acquisitions team. Westinghouse went on a big acquisition binge, and we bought CBS Television Corporation. So then my career took me to Pittsburgh to New York, where I worked at CBS Television. Went around the country for about 2 years buying up radio stations. So looking at all the human capital issues as it relates to integrating media and entertainment companies into CBS. That was also the height of the .com boom, and so I got the bug and I went to Amazon.com as one of the first HR people. I was employed 800 and change. A year and a half later, there was 8,000 people. So saw an organization go from very Seattle-centric to a very global organization pretty quickly. I left there and I went to PricewaterhouseCoopers as a director of their human capital consulting group. I run a division called the Saratoga Institute, which does a lot of workforce benchmarking, research, and analytics. It makes me cringe. I do a lot of statistics work, and I've got statisticians that work for me. So I don't know if Stat 297A is still a class here, but that's bringing back a lot of bad memories for me. It's very important, so remember that. So I also am responsible for the HR consultant practice in Washington, D.C. So I have a team of people that do executive compensation work, training and development, recruitment and staffing, pension and actuarial work. If you think about any range of the HR curriculum, that's where we have experts and resources in that DC metro area. So that's me. So I'm happy to talk about anything y'all would like to talk about, whether it's about getting a job in HR, learning a little bit more about consulting and HR consulting, and talking to Ed and some others earlier. There was another presentation we had about building personal brand and how important that is, not only in consulting, but in any endeavor that you're doing, whether it's through projects or internships or going after your first job. So we thought we'd go over the personal brand stuff. But I'd like to hear a little bit from y'all as to what, we spent a couple weeks down in Texas, so I got y'all and fixing another consulting thing that we adapt to the environment. Well, not dressed for this environment. So, anything on top of mind for you guys that you want to hear more about? I've just been told we're being recorded. So. How many of you have an interest in getting a job in the human resources field? Okay, just about everybody. All right, so let me ask you a quick question. How do you think HR adds value to a company?
Well, it's kind of a link between businesses and the employees, so it's kind of like the middleman and communicating their wants. So.
Okay. What else?
In company I interned this summer, I found that they're actually a very big European brand, but in local market in the US, they took the strategy of merging and acquiring local companies. But after the merging financially, HR did nothing in merging practices together, like streamlining the procedures,
Sure.
and merging the culture in the soft side. So it actually, I think, did better, a much better value to the
All right. Yeah.
I mean, just look at something like your reward systems. You need to be able to make sure that the actual behaviors that you want to happen in your organization from your employees are being rewarded in a timely manner, that they're being looked at from a strategic motivational standpoint so that your employees can actually even understand what they're getting, why they're getting it for, and how that's adding value to the organization itself.
Okay. There's no real right or wrong answer to this. But for those of you that are interested in a career in HR, you got to have a very crisp answer on this. Right, so this goes to the whole interviewing process and the building your brand process. You got to be able to answer the question, how does HR add value? And you got to answer that in 30 seconds or less and be very crisp with your answer. Right? So we can talk about this. It's not going to be kind of a lecture or presentation. Right? So what I'm looking for when I'm interviewing people in terms of the HR field is the ability to think about what it is you're doing. The ability to say, I am self-aware of why I'm in this field, and I'm aware of what people in this field do, and I've got a sense of what's going to happen. Right? Single biggest cost for an organization is in people. So is an organization generating a return on investment in its people? How do we know? How do we know whether we're attracting the best people on the team? How do we retain the best people? How do we engage these people? How do we train and develop these people? And how do we elicit a greater level of discretionary effort out of our workforce? And those are things that you want to interject into your terminology around when you're answering that question of how does HR add value? So do you want to learn a little bit more about this brand building stuff, or do you want to talk about interviewing for jobs? Your call. Both. Both? That's a good consulting answer. Yes. All right, let's start with this. So building your personal brand. This is going to start to look and smell a whole lot like a marketing class, but it's not going to get into the 4 Ps of marketing. This is very much about your own personal development and then applying it within that human resources field. So a couple of things we're going to talk about here. When we say brand, there are brands based on experience, and there are brands based on service and product, right? We all know about different brands. Let's move it forward. So what is brand? Right, what do you think of when you see the Apple logo, the Apple brand?
Dependability.
Dependability, Apple. How about innovation? Design.
Anticipation.
Anticipation. Tomorrow, right? How about Volvo? Your mom's car. Quality, safety, durability. What's your own personal brand? Right? Think long and hard about what your own personal brand is today and in the future. So, candidly, as we look at all of our consultants, we take a hard look at them to say, are they self-aware? So we talk about interviewing for a job. Can you describe your own personal brand in 30 seconds or less? What are you known for? Right? You rattled off everything about Volvo and Apple. What are you known for? What is your brand? What are you good at? What are your strengths? What's your distinctiveness to an employer? Why should someone hire you? And it shouldn't just be, I work hard. That's the table stakes. Everybody's going to work hard. Everyone's smart. Everyone's capable. Everyone's committed. What makes you distinctive? What's your unique personal brand? And be very honest with yourself on this. Right? It's easy to go through a couple of years here, get all the right grades, work hard, right? Graduate. When you take a hard look at yourself, what are you good at? What are you not good? What do other people think of you? Right? So for me, it was turning the lights out in the room, sitting there by myself with a drink in my hand, going, I'm going to take a hard look at myself and say, what do people think of me? What are my strengths? What are my opportunities? What's my brand? So as you look for your jobs, as you look at where you want your career to go, what do you want people to think of you? And then be the, what's that old saying, right? Be the change you wish to see. Think about it somewhat selfishly. Okay, promise of unique and valuable experience. That's brand. Right? Experiences are distinct from services as services are from goods. Experience. Right? This is the key word. Experience. What happens when someone drives a Harley Davidson? How many motorcycle drivers do you have? Anyone? Wow, look at that. So, is it the motorcycle itself that makes you excited? Is it the product, the service, or is it the actual experience of riding?
Usually the ride.
The ride. And how about if you went to a restaurant? An element of that is the food, right? The service, right? The brand, the product, the service. But it's how you felt about the entire place. From a consulting perspective, I got 20 other guys that I'm competing with in the marketplace, guys and gals, right? So why does somebody hire me? Why does somebody pay me $795 an hour as compared to other people that do the same type of work? Right? We all have the smarts. We all have the chutzpah. We all have the capability. We all have the technical skills. Right? These are the people that you're going to be competing with for jobs in the marketplace. They all have the capabilities that you have. What makes you unique and distinctive? These are things you want to prepare for and think about. Right? It's the experience. For me, I work as hard as anyone else, if not harder. Right? A strong ethos, strong work ethic, a lot of technical capability, but what we deliver to our clients is a better experience than the next guy. They trust us. We have great integrity. We deliver great quality product. At the end of the day, they like working with us. Now, you're all on group projects, right? You're doing different things with teams. I'm going to be interviewing 20 people tomorrow and the day after. And every one of them is going to tell me, when I ask, tell me about a challenging work experience or a group project you had. And every one of them is going to complain about a particular team member that didn't pull their weight. You all have had one of those, right? Right? Everyone has. That's always the answer I get. So another question is, what's that person's brand? Right? In your eyes, that person's brand is their thumb. The question is, how are you working with that thumb? What is your capability to work with people that are underperformers? What makes you distinctive in that situation? Now, the same question is, what are people thinking about you? And are you self-aware? That's a big thing that I look for and other people look for in terms of the recruitment process. Are you self-aware? Are you mature enough to take a step back and say, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm not good at, and here's my plan to get better at the stuff that I'm not good at? But I don't necessarily care what you have in terms of technical capability, right? It's important to me that you have more maturity, that you know what you're good at, know what you're not good at, and you have a plan to figure out how to get better at the things that you're not good at. That you're able to communicate, you're able to work and play well with others. Remember that back from kindergarten? You get an O or an S or a U and work and play well with others? That's a big deal for me. As we put teams together, we try to find people with that good fit. Now, people are going to be different. Right, so in your group projects you're working on now, you're going to have people that are very different. How do you work and play well with those folks? How do you get them to deliver what they need to deliver without kicking them out of the group? This is all part of your brand. More importantly, how do you take somebody that's underperforming and have them say, wow, what a great team member you were, without having you do it, without you having done all of their work? I got people on my group, right, my team, that are strong performers and underperformers. The challenge for us is how do you get those underperformers to really stand up? This is what I was talking about in the Harley Davidson. What they sell, right? They got a great product. There are a lot of other great products in the marketplace around different motorcycles, but they sell this experience. Right? So now think about it for you. What experience are you bringing to the table? What experience are people going to have with you? Is it a good one? Is it a challenging one? Or is it a bad one? Are you high maintenance? Are you difficult? This will come out in a screening process. It's not good enough just to have the smarts and the technical capabilities. Right? You can be a straight A student. You can know your HR terminology and the HR policies and procedures. You can know all the content, but if your brand is stopping at, hey, they know their stuff, that's not going to be good enough. All right. We all know Starbucks, right? If you took a blind taste test and you put a lot of coffee connoisseurs, they would take Starbucks and rank them in the bottom quartile of performance 9 times out of 10. Y'all know that? Their coffee is what it is. Now they need to do that because they have to homogenize their brand so that if you have a cup of coffee in New York, it tastes the same as the cup of coffee in California. Their business model is predicated on that. But what they're selling, they're not selling the greatest product in the world. They're selling consistency of that product. They're selling a great experience. You know when you go in there, you're going to get what you're going to get, and that it's going to be a clean environment. You know, there's nothing more satisfying for me when I travel around the world to be able to walk into Starbucks and know that I'm going to get a good cup of coffee. Relatively. They're selling that experience, and I know that I'm going to get something of high quality, and it's going to be a good environment to be in. Make no mistake of it, the entire economy is predicated on this experience concept. BMW, what's their tagline? The ultimate driving machine. If you look at any of these, UPS, Apple, Ford, right? What else have you? Weston, Procter & Gamble, Microsoft. All of these places view brand as such a critical element of their business. Now, within PwC, right, we're very focused on individual personal brands. What is your personal brand? What are you known for? You return people's phone calls and emails. How many of you return emails and phone calls of all the people that are important to you within 24 hours or less? Some. Don't be shy. Not everybody. Single biggest brand defining moment within PwC. If a client calls you, a client sends you an email, you return that phone call or email within 24 hours or less. You may not have the answer, but you acknowledge it. Right? These are the little things. Right? Whoever said that don't sweat the small stuff, right? We all heard that concept? They're wrong. Absolutely wrong. You have to sweat the small stuff. Now, not to the point where it drives you to become paranoid and schizophrenic and all that kind of stuff. But you have to sweat the small stuff, because when you sweat the small stuff, those are brand-defining moments for you as an individual. This is a big thing in PwC, and a lot of different organizations as well. This whole ladder around the experience. Right, looking on the right side, the raw materials, goods and services, quality, and the services that are being delivered, that's value creation. The top of that is the experience. And on the left side, subject matter expertise. You've got to be good at what you do. That's the bottom. That's table stakes for our poker players. Right? That's a bare minimum. You need to be absolutely good at what you do. The subject matter expertise in affiliated fields as well. You not only need to be a good HR practitioner, you need to be a good business person. You need to understand marketing, you need to understand finance, you need to understand accounting. For those of you that say, I want to get into HR because I'm a good people person, this ain't the right field. This is no longer personnel. It's no longer the happiness place. It's not the environment that's just planning the picnics. Right? To be an HR business partner means you need to have a lexicon that involves accounting, tax, marketing, a wide variety of different constituent studies. So I'm hopeful y'all are taking either minors or you're doing stuff in the business program or in labor studies or IO psychology, because it is very much a diverse field. Right? Somebody asked me the other day, what's my weighted average cost of capital for a project that I'm working on? How many of you know what WACC is? Weighted average cost of capital. Right? That's important. Somebody actually asked me what the correlation or the R squared was in a particular analysis that some of my team members did. How do you cringe when you hear R squared? Yeah, right? You don't think about R squared in HR. Let me tell you, it's a different world now. If you're not taking a stats class, get into a stat class and actually pay attention to stats class. I'll tell you, I didn't. I did barely what I needed to know to get my grade and get out of there and go, thank God I'll never have to think about multi-regression analysis ever again. Your distinctiveness on your brand is going to be predicated on your ability to bring quantitative and qualitative expertise to the job. Right? You know technology better than most of the people that are above you. You're going to know math and sciences a little bit better, hopefully. HR is becoming a harder, and I don't mean that in a more technical, in a more effort level, but it's becoming a harder curriculum, a harder environment. Harder meaning more math and science, more data, more analytics. You got to speak the lexicon of business. Right? So when we talk about how does HR add value, you got to be able to think about how does HR make money or save a company money, and answer that in 30 seconds or less. Right? was an engineering student here for a couple of years. Equations like this totally washed me out. That's why I got out. But it's not rocket science is the point, right? Building your personal brand. These are the 5 key actions. I think you have it. You can share this with everybody if you don't want the slides here. But this is an important slide, right? Defining your brand. What do you want to be known for? Demonstrating self-awareness. I talked about this earlier. This is probably the single biggest factor in our recruitment process. I got 375 accounting students that are going to be interviewing with PwC tomorrow. This is going to be the single biggest factor that we look at. Look, we'll train the heck out of folks on the technical aspects. We expect you to know the basics. We'll train you on the rest. Right? Your years here is to get that level of basic expertise, basic knowledge and awareness, but it's to really grow, mature, and learn about who you are, what you contribute, and recognizing what you need to get better at. That shows me you have the capacity and capability to learn and to grow. If you don't demonstrate that, I don't have time, right? Because there are plenty of other people that do. It all goes back to the stuff that you learned in kindergarten, right? Work and play well with others. They communicate, right? So develop expertise. What technical, relationship, and professional skills make you stand out? This is not just about what you know, right? It's that old saying, who do you know? And this doesn't mean that you've got 1,000 friends on Facebook or LinkedIn, right? Call them friend harvesters, right? It's baloney. Who do you know from a relationship perspective? Who can you call up in a moment of crisis or a moment of, I'll take me as an example, right? I had a very difficult client situation. Nobody within my firm can answer that question, but I have a strong enough network that I called 3 or 4 other practitioners in the marketplace. And I'm able to pick up the phone. They trust me. I trust them. How many people are like that in your environment? It's not about your friends. It's about your professional network as well. This doesn't mean you go to some event and you shook a few hands and you handed out your resume to some people. You go to these events and you say, how can I help you? Without recognizing or wanting anything in return other than developing a relationship. Right, so that's the build relationship. How deep and broad is your network and exposure? So for those of you that want to have a career in HR, what did you do this summer around building your network? I know some of you are probably freshmen or sophomores, but that's no excuse around. If your plan is to get a job or a career in HR, you have the opportunity in each and every one of your hometowns to find somebody that does something in HR. Right? And the last one is grow. Get out of your comfort zone and renew yourself. And this is, sometimes we see this and you're like, gosh, I just want to get a job. Let me just get out of college. I don't ever redefine myself. I need to define myself first. But what we're looking for, especially when we recruit and interview people, is are you interested? Right? Do you have interest in hobbies outside of work, beyond, I like watching movies? I'll tell you, when I spend 10 hours recruiting folks and we go through interview after interview, tell me something. Tell me something unique, something interesting, something different. And if you like movies, that's fine, but tell me something unique and interesting and different. If you tell me I like hanging out with my friends, I got no time. Now, I'm being a little gregarious about some of these statements, and I don't mean to sound arrogant about it, but at the end of the day, we're looking at a lot of people. So the point of this is not to say, well, gosh, I need to get more interesting, but it's to be distinctive. What is your personal brand? How are you distinctive? And only you can answer that. Right? And a lot of you are probably kind of skating by, doing what you need to do in school just to kind of get the grade and move on to the next class. I would say stop doing that. Really try to learn a couple of nuggets in each one of your classes to say, all right, I'm going to be an expert in this. Right? Again, use that poker example. What are you going to double down on? Right? And some of you may not know yet, but when you find that moment in any one of your classes or any interaction with a professor, somebody that inspires you, you find something and say, yeah, I like this. Then you become a voracious reader and you study the heck out of that particular topic. Look, I tell you, I use Google all the time when I want to learn about a particular topic. You can get a bachelor's degree just by studying all the things you can find on the internet. God, I sound like an old fart. Study the internet. It's true. There are a lot of people like me that publish a lot of content. I give presentations all the time at major events. I have a PowerPoint deck. We have great technical data that gets put out, white paper that gets put out. Your professors are doing the same. A lot of academic, a lot of consulting literature. Right? Your ability, if you want a job within the consulting field, you got to get good at learning about different things that you don't know about. How do you pay somebody in Nigeria? That was a question I got posed last week. What's the going rate for a call center operator in Nigeria? Anybody know? What's the currency in Nigeria? I didn't know. Right? You're not expected to know everything, but you are expected to be able to figure it out. That's what you need to learn right now in this environment. How do you figure stuff out and get smart pretty quickly on a particular topic? That's what I'm going to be looking for over the next couple of days. Are people agile enough to figure something new out? What in their career, an academic or job, has shown that they were able to figure something out? And you know what? If you had a high-profile internship, that's okay. I look for people that have done a waiter or waitress job more than anything else. Right? A lot of people poo-poo that and think, well, it's kind of whatever job. Right? But folks that have to interact with difficult people, how many have been a waiter or waitress? Right? How many of them have difficult people to interact with? People are pains, aren't they? They're really challenging. Now, 9 times out of 10, when I'm interviewing people, nobody tells me about that job. They say, yeah, I was a waiter or waitress at a particular place. That's something. So when I talk about brand, I talk about knowing yourself, right? Recognize that that particular job is a fantastic job to demonstrate I had great customer-facing, customer interaction skills. I had great communication skills. I had great agility. I dealt with a lot of crazy people that were upset about stuff and were demanding. Hey, that's my life every day in dealing with clients. If you tell me that, if you show me that you're self-aware of your own environment and what you've gone through, I'm going to think more of you than, yeah, I worked in a restaurant as a server. Leave it at that. Show me that you know that what you're going through is a good experience. I don't think I should use Lance Armstrong as part of the slide anymore. He's getting us into more trouble these days, right? So what do you want to be known for? Now, it's a little early to say what's your legacy, right? Well, it's early for me to talk about my legacy. But this is a good question for all of you. What do you want to be known for? What do you want your professors to think of you? I'll tell you, in the accounting department, right, there's all these students that try to become accountants. I just talked to the dean of the accounting program. And I asked him, what do you look for? And the obvious one is GPA, right? It's okay, there's a certain GPA. They look for people that have an aptitude to study hard and work hard. Right? So they talk to professors. So people that are perhaps on a borderline will talk to a professor and say, did this person show that they had a discipline, a cadence around studying? Right? So these are intangibles. When we talk about not sweating the small stuff, you got to sweat the small stuff. Because for those individuals that were on the bubble, the relationship that they had with their professor, the brand that they demonstrated with the professor, was the big game changer as to whether or not they got into the accounting program. That same theory is going to hold true as to whether or not you get jobs or not. The single biggest problem I had when I was on campus is that nobody would talk to me from HR. Right? You go to career fairs, nobody was recruiting for HR. Right? Heck, we didn't really have an HR program at Penn State back in the mid-90s. You got to plan your own luck. You got to be distinctive. You got to be unique. I had a stat, I kid you not, of over 100 rejection letters. The reason I know that was that Dan was giving out a free beer for every rejection letter, so my friends and I were a little large for a while. The point of this is that what I did, my work ethic on this was to say, I'm going to do everything that it takes to plan my own luck. That was my distinctiveness. And I got lucky. I got lucky because there was a guy like me named Paul Golden, graduated from the labor studies program, who was working at Westinghouse. He was here to interview engineers, and I tackled him at the information session. I said, you got to talk to me. And he was virtually the same, labor studies, kind of stuff that you're doing right now, working at Westinghouse, came out of Harrisburg, hometown. And so he said, okay. And so he carved out a half-hour interview session for me before his interview sessions started that day. And he talked to me, and I got a job because of it. right? Plan your own luck. So we talked about this, what do you want to be known for? Interests, sources of energy, strength, weaknesses, and impact on others, and image. Maybe you have a firm grasp of what your image is. Something to think about, especially when we start doing this recruitment stuff, right? We're going to get into some slides here about how first impressions really do matter and how people judge very quickly. Okay. There's a question probably. You don't have to answer this out loud or anything, but think about it. Look, I mean, it's hard because when I was here, I was like, man, I just want a job. I want a job somewhere related to my field. And after 100 rejection letters, it was getting kind of hard thinking I was actually going to find it. It's easier for you guys. There is a much bigger market for HR professionals or for affiliated roles in HR. Biggest thing is, what's your plan? And your plan's not going to be perfect. You're going to keep adapting that plan. But what are you good at? What are you not good at? What's your plan to fix what you're not good at? We talked about some of this stuff already. This is a big thing, like group projects, right? The group projects within this environment aren't meant just so that professors can be like, all right, we don't have to lecture, there's going to be group projects, or you have to grade papers for X number of people, there's half that amount or a quarter of that amount. Group projects aren't designed for that purpose. That group project is designed to get you to work and play well with others. Fancy way of saying that is how well do you collaborate with others. Collaboration is the second most important thing that I'm going to screen for those 400 students that are coming through the interview slate. How well do you work and play well with others? Take a hard look at yourself. Are you difficult? Do you contribute? Do you add value? Do you give energy or do you take energy? Again, for me, this was take a hard look at yourself, sit there in the dark room, for those of you that have aged, drinking a cocktail and just saying, all right, take a hard look at myself. Yeah.
So what would you say if you posed a question that screened people for that? You know, are you a good team player? And they're honest with you and saying that over these past few years, you know, there are some areas I could have worked on, but then they prove to you that they are looking to improve on that. They have formed that self-awareness in front of you. And hopefully they've learned a lesson and they try to provide to you how they can improve on that.
Yeah, it's probably as good, if not better, because it's like killing two birds with one stone here. Now you've demonstrated that you weren't perfect, which nobody is, and you're self-aware of where your weaknesses are, and that you've demonstrated that you're able to overcome that. Yeah, so that would be a positive answer. It's kind of like when people say, well, what are your, hopefully nobody asks you this, like, what are your 3 strengths and weaknesses? A lame question, isn't it? What are your weaknesses? I work too hard. Really? Arrogance is a big thing that we're picking up on with university hires. You're not supposed to have had a ton of great experiences. You're not supposed to know it all. And our zeal to try so hard in that job interview come across as being a little more arrogant. So to your statement earlier, be humble. Recognize you don't know everything, but that you have the capability and capacity to learn. That you're humble in what you don't know, but that your strength in what you do know, and convey that you're a hard worker, quick learner, that you work and play well with others, right? Am I saying anything about you need to know more compensation or training development or personality theory, right? You need to know some of that stuff. It's important. I don't want to denigrate the importance of the curriculum. But the essence of what will make you successful in your career is this other stuff. Right? The experience is more important than the actual product itself. So this first impressions matter. Studies have shown that 7 seconds to make 11 impressions. This is very true. When I talk about planning your own luck, you come to an interview, you come to a place where you're going to network, you come to any place where you think there may be an opportunity for you to be successful, you play to win the game. Right? So how many of you feel like people make first impressions? That's a bad thing. Right? You shouldn't do that. First impressions are bad. You shouldn't judge people on first impressions. That's what happens. Right? Somebody comes into my interview session and starts talking about, hey, wow, you get to work from home. That's great. When can I start doing that? For real, someone asked me that the other day. This is like not made up. This is. Or somebody sneezes and shakes my hand.
Oh yeah, what if someone did cough or sneeze?
I mean, look, people got a cough.
Right.
But again, it goes to that first impression. Like, be polished, be professional, right? And I'm not looking to see if you can really tie your tie or how high the heel is. I'm not looking for that. What I'm looking for is, are you self-aware of the environment that you're in, and are you able to adapt to that environment? Are you showing up 5 minutes early? Look, I'll tell you, people are watching all of this stuff. If you're not early, you're late. Take that as a mantra, right? For those of you that kind of stroll into class 5 minutes late and think it's okay, no big deal, I go in the back. Hell, I did it, so I can't really lecture you on that, but it matters. In a client services setting, my brand is very much associated to, am I delivering the experience that the person is looking for? And being early every single time leaves a residue on that individual of, this guy cares about me and the work that he's doing with me. Do I trust him? Remember, I got 20 other guys that are going after the same type of work. But I like Nick. He's showing up every time on time. He delivers great work. And I have a good experience with him. You can start working on what experience people have with you right now. It's not good enough just to do the work and get the grade. It's what image are you portraying to others around you, including your professors, including your classmates, especially when you have people coming on campus to recruit you. I feel like I'm lecturing some stuff. All right, so visual, tonal, content. This is not visual on how attractive or unattractive is someone. Okay? Get help from your friends, from your family as to whether or not you look okay for the environment that you're in. This is the most overlooked thing. People, you got to get comfortable in what you're wearing as well for the interviews. Can't tell you how many times the first time somebody's wearing a suit, and they just. If you're self-conscious in what you're wearing, you're not thinking about how do I project a good brand and a good image. Then we start talking about tonal. You guys got to watch the likes, the you-knows, the ums. Okay? I got a 4-year-old at home. She started saying, like, you know, Dad? Now you're all of a sudden. It's part of all of our TV shows and stuff that we read and our friends, and this is how they talk. But you got to recognize that you're not talking to one of your friends. If you come into an interview session with me and say, you know, like, you know, if you say more than 5 times, I'm going to start shutting down on you. Because you clearly have not demonstrated that you have the ability to articulate your particular point of view in a thoughtful manner. You don't have the self-awareness to recognize that we're not at the bar, we're not out at the game or something. That brand matters. How you talk, how you speak matters. And then the content. We're so focused on the content, right? How smart am I on a particular topic? It ain't about how smart you are. You need to have a certain level of threshold knowledge on all your topic layers. You got to be smart enough. And that's where all the hard work in these other areas come into play. What am I doing on time, then?
7:46.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, we talked a lot about this. Appearance and attire, prompt, responsive, BlackBerry habits, listening, engaged, and point of view. I'll tell you, this BlackBerry habit, that's a big deal. That's a big deal for me personally. Someone will be talking to me, my wife in particular. I'll pull out my BlackBerry, start checking emails and saying, I'm listening, right? What's going on? But again, it shows, right? It shows, particularly in a client services setting. If I'm doing that in front of a client, they're not too happy. I'm aware of the gaps between how some people perceive me and how I want to be viewed. This is the hard work. If nothing else you take away from the session, that you go back and say, how do people perceive me and what's my personal brand? And then say, all right, do I like what I see? For those of you that are kind of in touch, you'll start seeing, well, no, I don't like what I see in a couple of areas. For those of you that don't see that and you think you're perfect, there's probably some other issues there. We talked about developing expertise. Right? I don't care what that expertise is. It could be in a technical area, it could be in a hobby or an interest area. Develop something that you're passionate about. It's passion. We didn't really talk a lot about that. It's a derivative of this, of being interested in something. If you're passionate about something, then I know there's some fire in your belly. And if I see that, then I know there's going to be fire in the belly about stuff that we're going to be working on. So let me stop here, right? 5 key actions for building your personal brand. There's only 4 things here, so we're not an accounting firm. There's 4, but there's 5 key actions. The last one was grow. So thoughts, comments, impressions? Was this helpful? Good? Yeah? Come on, some feedback. Comments, questions? Accolades? Okay, yes, ma'am.
What is your brand?
What is my personal brand? All right, so first thing, kind of honesty, integrity. Right, so in an environment where you can probably say and do a lot of different things to get the deal or close the business, I will choose on being the trusted advisor to the people that I have relationships with, even if it's at my own personal economic detriment. So my personal brand is to be the trusted advisor. Right? Other questions? Wow, look at this wall, it's just growing. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a question about arrogance, because I know a lot of us have done mock interviews, and we teach to people that the most important thing is confidence. So I know that maybe we may be messing them up. I don't know.
No, confidence is good, right?
But it depends.
We really want people to be confident. That confidence comes from a source of good, that you know yourself, that you understand what you're good at and what you're not good at. Right? So confidence, healthy. Arrogance, unhealthy. Right. Arrogance is when you start saying things. How many work with Dance Marathon? Right? Can't tell how many people put that on their resume. And look, there's nothing detrimental or derogatory towards Dance Marathon. It's a very important and significant thing. So let me take that to mind. But there is a certain arrogance level when. Can we not move around enough here?
Sorry.
Sorry, it's mood lighting. So the arrogance factor comes in when people take bigger credit or expand their importance in this particular topic area.
Right.
I could have done some things with the video in there, right? Right, so continue to encourage confidence, but encourage humility along with that confidence. Look, we don't expect you to be running a multi-million-dollar business. We don't expect you to be the leader of a team and it be as profound as you think it is. Show that you're engaged and you're committed and you're working hard. Show that you know a lot, you contribute a lot, but balance with, there's a whole lot for me to learn as well. And I'm very interested in learning, but I'm really passionate about whatever it is I was doing. That's going to show confidence, enthusiasm, ability to learn, grow, and develop. If you tell me how great you are, who likes hearing that, right?
Only person said that.
Yeah. Even then, it's suspect. Questions from over here?
You talked a lot about what you look for in interviewees. So self-awareness, collaboration. If you had to name a third.
You know, a lot of different people have different things on that third, but for me is that there's 3 kind of key dimensions for my business, right? Does the person have project management skills? Can the person demonstrate some technical awareness? And can I put them out in front of another human being and them not embarrass me? Right, so I do client services work. I've got 30 people that work for me and 6,000 people that are part of my broader team. Those 30 people, that's what I'm screening for. Do they have strong project management skills, which embodies the collaboration, embodies the ability to work and play well with others, the technical skills? Do they know something, and do they have the capacity to learn and grow and develop? And then, can I put them out in front of somebody, and do they have enough social awareness? Can they communicate? Can they empathize? Can they be situationally aware? Right? That's another thing around brand defining that we find a lot of people. Are you situationally aware? Because how you need to act in a one situation with certain set of variables, it may be an entirely different way to act in a common type scenario but with different people. Happens all the time. I was at a meeting where the client asked me to lead the discussion in prayer. Right? Is the person agile enough to say, okay, I'm not a particularly religious individual. It was I had to stop cursing inside my mind pretty quickly. But to come up with a prayer on the spot. How many of you could do that? Well, some of the religious people can probably do that pretty quickly. Right? So I get thrown into a different environment in any given day. And so in those different environments, so my team is going to get pulled into different environments. So now as I'm screening people that join my team, are they able to adapt to different environments and not freak out? 2 more questions. 1.
So you do a lot of interviewing. Do you ever see a problem with people being authentic in interviews? Because like you can tell that they've done a lot of interviews and you kind of get those prepared answers.
Yeah.
Does that authenticity still come through a lot of the time?
That's a really good question. Because I had this challenge, because I did the whole mock interview program, man. I had every question that anybody possibly would have asked me. I had like, okay, answer number 4, bang, and I'd be able to pull it out and kind of take it. I got 100 rejection letters. I was ready for anything. And so I got some feedback that I was almost not believable because I came across as arrogant because I knew it all. Like you asked me a question and bam, I nailed it. I thought I nailed it, but they're just like, whoa, dude. And so you got to dial it back, and that's when we start talking about, look, I'm not perfect on this. I wasn't when I came through this, but I've got a little bit of experience now to impart on y'all to say, don't overdo it, and recognize that the other person knows that you're X years of age, and that your experiences aren't supposed to be like that significant. And I bring up the dance marathon because I had a couple experiences where people like, I was single-handedly responsible to raise X millions of dollars for this. You're like, really? Really? You $3 million worth of fundraising? Okay. You see my point, right? Yeah. But being authentic is important, but your brand should be more than authentic. Because if you're authentic and you're kind of ho-hum, okay, well then you're not being distinctive. So there is, again, that fine line between being authentic and being distinctive. Because you're authentic and you're one of a crowd, it's hard for me to discern. Look, guys, it's not perfect. You can be upset about the whole selection process and how it's unfair or it's this, that, and the other thing. It's not a perfect process. But let's not let perfect be the enemy of good. It's a good process that a lot of people use. So I'm not going to call it a game, but it's kind of a game. You got to learn how to play the game. So some of the things I'm sharing with you today are the ways to help you play that game a little bit better. Okay, one last question. You got a couple of professors in here. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to ask a question. I know you're graduate for many years already. If I ask you, what's the biggest thing you learned from your job?
From my job?
Yeah, but you didn't learn from the school. What is that?
Well, I've got a prayer in my back pocket at any moment. That's an interesting question. What have I learned? So I do a lot of work around the world. And one of the things that, it wasn't so much that I didn't know it, but it was more of an appreciation that organizations are really good for society, right? So this is going to get a little esoteric, but right, what human resources professionals do around the world, not just in the U.S., you kind of get it, right? Like big companies, they hire people, they pay them a good wage, and that wage allows people to put food on the table for their families, their kids, so the kids can grow and be healthy and prosperous. for me, that's a real meaningful thing, especially as I have employees, that they continue to grow and prosper. But what I learned, this is true around the world, right? The importance of organizations, the importance of work to a country, to a society, and to the self-worth of individuals, right? If you really think about it, right, what organizations do, especially organizations that hire and are great places to work, they give people hope, they give people sustenance, they give people engagement. Like, how many people have had a job and you're like, wow, I really love what I do? So there's a certain philosophical element of what the work that we do in human resources. We create environments for people to come in and give whatever they've got in their gut and their heart and their head to be able to contribute that in an environment. And I knew that here, but I didn't know that that existed in Nigeria. I didn't know that existed in China and India and other parts of the world. I just think it's different. So that to me was a big learn. Okay. Anything else?
So what is the going rate for Nigerian
Call center
calls?
work. I know I got compensation people in Nigeria, so I can.
No, thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.